Hebrews chapter 10, verses 22 through 25. Let us draw near to God with a sincere heart and with the full assurance that faith brings, having our hearts sprinkled, to cleanse us from a guilty conscience and leaving our bodies washed with pure water. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching.
Well, it is good to be back with everyone, and I got a lot of different things to talk about this morning. I wanted to definitely thank the congregation for honoring Zinni and I guess it was 2 weeks ago with the plaque honoring our 20 years of service here and the gift. Again, like I mentioned to the Bible class, totally caught me off guard, and I'm never usually caught off guard with anything around here, so that was amazing that you all pulled that off, so I want to thank you for that. I'm going to have a more formal giving letter I'm going to give out and all that kind of stuff here soon. Just that happened. Then we went to camp, and I've been like riding high on all sorts of stuff right now, but I want to say thank you again for that. I am definitely blessed to be able to be your preacher, not only week after week, but just to be part of this congregation. You are our family, and we love being here and look forward to 20 more years in service here. We just got back, though, from Bible camp, and I do want to talk about Bible camp a little bit because it is a work that we are engaged in here as the church. There is our big group picture right there. It was a great group of staff and campers. Some quick camp facts from this last week. It is hosted by us. We are the hosting congregation. We provide the brunt of the support for it and oversight through our eldership and things like that. But we are financially helped out by the Airport Church of Christ in San Francisco. And many of you as individuals help make this camp happen. Our staff come from all sorts of different congregations. It is not just West Visalia staffing it. We have equal number of people from all over making it happen. And this year is kind of cool. We had attendees from California, Nevada, Oregon, Texas, Tennessee, and North Dakota. I don't think any camp in California can claim that. So the bad thing is it's all these people from California leaving to those states. However, we make it a requirement you still have to come back to Bible camp if you leave. I'll let you leave if you come to camp. So that's kind of how it works. We had 138 total attendance this year. That was 10 pretty much full camper cabins, 5 boys cabins, 5 girls cabins. So that was awesome. If you've never been up to camp, you should come check it out even just for a couple hours. Our daily spiritual activities up at camp include morning and evening worship. So we have morning and evening worship services. The kids and the adults have 2 45-minute Bible classes each day. There's cabin devotionals and evening devotionals. So a lot of spiritual activities up there at camp as a chance to grow in your knowledge of the Word and spend time in worship. This year we had 8 people baptized at Bible camp and 1 when we got back, which is totally awesome. And all of them were most of them were like older high school boys, which is great to see these leaders setting the example. Tyler is one of them as well. You know, they set that example to the younger kids that they have to look up to. I will tell you that of all the works that we are engaged in as a congregation, this is by far the most impactful. More people have gone into full-time ministry because of Bible camp, started Christian families, been baptized into Christ at the work we're doing at camp than anything else put together. It is an amazing work that we are doing, and it doesn't just impact this congregation. It impacts congregations all over California. I have leadership from all these congregations thanking us every single year about putting on this camp and what we're able to do with it. I want to show a few pictures. There's some pictures of some baptisms there. That's Roman in our backyard when we got home, so be sure to pat him on the back too. That is Jack being baptized by Michael Parnell. He's a first-year cabin counselor baptizing someone up there at Bible camp, which is totally awesome. That is Levi Childress. Levi will be at small group tonight. I believe he had to work this morning, but Levi, who attends here, was baptized as well. And it was really cool. Cross Coda, who's from Bakersfield, he was baptized last year at camp, and now he was in that same pool this year baptizing someone too, Jace Mark. So a lot of cool stuff like that. But it's not just all about Bible study up at camp. We have a lot of fun. Here's the Camper Boys. You didn't know we had a boy band up there at Bible camp singing up there on stage. We have a lot of fun. That's arts and crafts there. That's another activity going on the stage. That's a game called Gaga Ball, if you're not familiar with it. That's Caden eating chips because Caden's cool like that. And here's some other pictures up there at Bible camp. It really was a great week. But at the end of every week up at camp, people will always come up to me and tell me, this week is so uplifting. Which it is, which you should come. And we talk about that. But the real question we ask is, what is it about this event that makes it uplifting? Because even though I'm like Bible Camp's biggest cheerleader in the world and think it's the greatest thing ever, the reality is it's just a place you go to. There's camps all over the place. I Googled Christian camps. Here's the ones within driving distance of my house, okay? I mean, although YBC is special to us, it is not necessarily inherently uplifting just because it exists. There's camps in other places, in other states, in other towns, and you probably have gone to them maybe at different times growing up. So although that event is special to us, it can't be that just, a camp is inherently uplifting, therefore you must have one. There's no biblical mandate for having church camps. You don't have to have that one. You don't have to go to one. Although I think you need to go to one, you don't have to go to one to get to heaven, right? We understand that. But what is it then that makes it encouraging? What is it at the end of this week where people go, wow, that was so uplifting? I think that's a fair question to ask. What is it that makes it uplifting, and is it possible to replicate what makes it uplifting in other places? So I started thinking about that this whole last week. What is it about camp that makes it so uplifting? Because I don't want people to just turn it into, you have to go to camp because that's how you're going to get encouraged. Is there a way to take the things that make camp encouraging and do them in other places? And what you start to see is that really the things that make Bible camp encouraging are the same things that the scriptures tell us to do all the time. It's not some magical formula. The Bible's been telling us all along, do these things and you will be uplifted, except we're like too distracted by everything else to engage in those things. So what I want to do this morning is quickly talk about some of the things that make camp encouraging, but show how we can do those things all the time. And they're practical things that will help us grow in our faith. So if you're asking this morning, what can I do to grow in my faith? Well, yeah, you could go to Bible camp, and you could also do these things, because these things will help you grow in your faith. So number one, real simple, go outside. Okay, that's simple, right? At Bible camp, we spend time contemplating the majesty of God's creation. We had one devotional where Chris Roberts, preacher from Dinuba, who's now in Bakersfield, brought out a giant telescope, talked about the existence of God, and let the kids look through this telescope the size of a trash can. I don't know how he brought it to camp, but it was awesome, right? They're looking at the moon and different things. And they're talking about the creation that God has made and how wonderful it is. Did you know scriptures tell us to do that? In Romans chapter 1, verse 20. It says, for since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power, his divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made. Going outside and looking at creation, is that something we could do throughout the year? Yes. And even if you don't want to go outside, I'm sure your house has a window, right? It's hot out there, I know. But it's something we can do all the time. But what do we have a tendency to do? We have a tendency to stare at screens all day long, stay inside all day long, bombarding ourselves with media all day long, and we don't take the chance to just go outside and go, wow, God made all this. Look at those mountains that I can see from my house. Look at those trees outside. Look at the sky. Look at how it all works. There's an amazing God. You know, ancient man sitting around a campfire looking up at the sky contemplated those things. We've all gone indoors, spent time on our tablets, and we don't think about those things. But spending time in creation and thinking about the Creator is something you can do all the time. You don't have to go to Bible camp to do that. You can do that, and your faith will be uplifted. Number two, up at camp, we spend time in meaningful conversations with other Christians. We have a lot of time to do it. I mean, we're with each other before we go to bed. I don't know, like 14 hours a day up there. Might as well just start talking, right? And we do. And we'll have conversations, not just, hi, how are you? But conversations about life, about sin, about struggles, about worry, about prayer requests, about successes in life, about ideas for ministry. We spend time in meaningful conversations with other Christians. And by the way, the Bible tells us to do that all the time. Hebrews chapter 3, verse 13 says, but encourage one another daily, as long as it is called today, so that none of you may be hardened through the deceitfulness of sin. And in the passage Richard read in Hebrews chapter 10, this is usually the passage that we use to talk about don't miss worship, but it's so much more than this. He says, and let us consider how we may spur another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, We're supposed to encourage each other. And to encourage each other, you have to be with each other. That's why we do other activities as a church. That's why we have small groups. That's why we do Monday Night for the Master. That's why we have Bible studies. And by the way, that's not enough. We need to be with each other all the time, because that verse says daily, by the way. So we need to be with each other a lot, engaging in those conversations with one another so that we can bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. You will not be able to do it, I promise you, if the only time you talk to your brothers and sisters is for an hour on Sunday morning. By the way, you're not talking right now, so you probably got about 5 minutes of that before and after. That is not enough. It will not work. You will not be encouraged by your brothers and sisters if the only time you ever talk to them is for a few minutes on Sunday. You have to make an effort to do it. We could plan events all day long, but you know what? It's all of our responsibility to make that happen. And it's something that we can do all the time. Anytime I've ever gone and visited someone, like let's say in a home, afterwards I go, that was so easy. Why don't I do that more? Anytime we have a new family over to our house for dinner or we go out to eat or something, I go, that wasn't that hard. Why do I make that a big deal? Why don't I do more of that? Is this something that we can do all the time? Absolutely it is. And it will encourage you the more time you spend with other Christians. It works at Bible camp because we shut the gate at night, right? We have put you in cabins with one another. But yet, we can replicate that all the time. So spend a lot of time with your church family and actually have real conversation. Hi, how are you? How's the weather? You know, something like that. That's not a real conversation. Actually talk to one another. Open up to one another, and you'll grow in your faith. Number 3, up at camp, we also spend a lot of time every day studying, praying, worshiping, many times a day. Is that something we can replicate? You know it is, right? We can do that. The Bible tells us to. We have passages that tell us how the Bereans examine the Scriptures daily. 1 Thessalonians 5:17 says, pray without ceasing. The psalmist even says, the praises of the Lord shall continually be on my mouth. If the only time you're praising is on Sunday, that's not enough. I'm telling you, you will not grow in your faith that way. It needs to be something that you do daily, and you have to take ownership of that. I think sometimes we expect the church to do that too. We're like, well, the church needs to provide more of this. Do it. We're the church. Make it happen. Daily find opportunities to pray, to grow, to study, to worship, to praise. It doesn't have to be between the hours of 10:30 and 11:30 on a Sunday with an opening and closing prayer. Make it happen all the time in your life. And find how much you grow. There's nothing, it's not a hack to life with this. This isn't a shortcut. It works. Spend time worshiping all the time, and you'll find yourself growing in the faith. Spend time outside thinking about God's creation. Spend time in meaningful conversation with your brothers and sisters. Spend time worshiping God every day. And another thing that makes camp unique is the fact at camp, we serve together every day. We're working up there. Yeah, it's work. And you know what? Our staff pay to come up there and work. That's how awesome they are. But at camp, we serve every day with one another. There's something special about doing works of service with your brothers and sisters. You're on the same team. You're working toward the same goal. You're keeping each other accountable. You're pushing each other along. When one person's down, you lift them up, and they lift you up when you're struggling. And in Philippians chapter 2, Paul's bringing this all together about how the church in Philippi can be united. And he says this. He says, so if there's any encouragement in Christ, if there's any comfort from love, if there's any participation in the Spirit, any affection and sympathy, complete my joy. So Paul says, it's all going to work out and you'll complete my joy if you have the same mind, having the same love, being in full accord and of one mind. So we're all together working on one idea. And that one idea is not about ourselves. It's about others. He says, do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but with humility count others more significant than yourselves. Do not look out for your own interest, but also for the interest of others. Every time I've worked with one of my brothers or sisters in a project of some kind, whether it's going in, reaching out to this person who needs a Bible study, visiting someone in a home, working on some kind of physical building project around this building, if it's serving food in the cafeteria at Bible camp or, replacing sprinkler heads with Danny outside, working together with your brothers and sisters will help you grow in your faith. But you have to be proactive with that. We can plan all sorts of work days and service projects, but it's up to all of us to get engaged, to get involved. If you work together with your brothers and sisters, you will see your faith grow. So camp, although I love it and I think it's the greatest thing in the world, I have to say that every time, it is not inherently encouraging by itself. But what makes it encouraging are the things that we do there. And those things that we do there are not unique to camp. They are things that we can do all the time. We just condense a whole bunch of them in 1 week up there. But imagine if we did those kinds of things every single day of our life, how encouraged we would be in the work that we could get accomplished. If every day we spent time contemplating God's creation, if every single day we spent time in meaningful conversation with other believers, if every single day we worshiped, prayed, and studied, and if every single day we engage in acts of service with other Christians, do you think your faith would be strong? I guarantee that it would. I know that mine would, because I only do all of that 1 week out of the year, a lot of times at Bible camp, and then the rest of it's a little bit more sporadic. But imagine if we did all of that all the time, how much our faith would grow, how strong our faith would be, how we'd be less likely to give into sin, how we'd be more likely to love and serve another person, and the energy that we would feel in this congregation every time we got together with our brothers and sisters if we did these things every day. Yes, we do those at camp. We're going to keep doing those things at camp, but let's do those things all the time. You'll know how blessed you are when you do just that. The lesson is yours this morning. If you're here and you need encouragement, if you need prayers, if you're ready to put on Jesus in baptism this morning, we're here to help you. There's a song that's been selected. I'll be up here for about a verse of it, and then afterwards we can talk out in the foyer. But right now, let's all stand and let's sing together.
Wonderful story of love, tell it to me again. Wonderful story of love, waves immortal strain. Angels with rapture announce it, shepherds